Geordi, wait a second.
Thank you, Mr. Worf. Aye, sir.
This is off the record. I'm saying this to you as a friend, not your superior officer. I think it would be best if you weren't so personally involved with Aquiel right now. There's a lot about her we don't know.
And there's a lot about her that I do know. And if she's innocent, I want to help her prove it.
I think you've let your personal feelings cloud your judgment.
I'm not the one making judgments.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo.
Jeff and I are veteran Trekkies, and Dory is a rookie Trekkie, and we are taking her on her first journey through Star Trek: The Next Generation. Today, we're discussing the Season 6 episode, Aquiel. The original air date is January 30th, 1993. And as always, we'll take it to Dory for the recap.
Okay, so the Enterprise has arrived at a communication relay station near the Klingon border where they're scheduled to deliver supplies. However, the station has not responded to repeated hails. So Riker, Geordi, Worf, and Dr. C transport to the empty station. However, I do have to point out, why was Dr. C transported on the stairs?
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. Wow, that was such a weird thing to do.
There's actually a very good reason for that. You see, the transporter operator scanned the set and was like, okay, for the most dramatic effect, considering where the camera is, we're going to beam her right there. And so you can thank the transporter operator for that. He was planning for the AV team.
Yeah. Wow. No, it's part of a transport operator procedure to consider
depth.
Yeah. Why did I use the word? To consider composition. You know?
Yes.
Oh, of course.
Yes,
How
precisely.
could I have been so silly?
Because the AV team, he needs to do it for the AV team.
Yeah. The AV team on the relay. They would have come in real fucking handy this episode.
I know,
Holy
right?
shit.
But that station only had like 2 people.
Usual.
They didn't have enough budget for AV team on the station, I guess.
Yeah. So they were remote. Okay, so there's a noise coming from a service duct. Geordi moves this machine away from the wall that was really not subtly hiding this duct at all.
No.
They look inside. Oh, Geordi and Riker look inside the duct, and it is a beautiful scruffy dog. And I was like, this beautiful baby angel.
Yeah, I forgot about the dog, so when I saw it, I'm like, oh, Dory's gonna love this.
Oh, yeah. So tail's wagging. I'm like, that's so sweet. And they're like, oh, the shuttlecraft is gone. So I'm just like, oh, so some monsters just left a dog here by themselves. Monsters, all of you? Well, sort of.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
There was a monster, but we'll see.
Yeah. So Dr. C finds cellular residue on the platform, and she thinks it is the remains of one of the lieutenants. Dr. C says the blood matches. Okay, here's the thing. This fucking loses. I've got issues with some continuity. So Dr. C says the blood matches Lieutenant Aquiel. Unari and Worf is cutting the metal floor out so they can study the cellular residue on remains from the floor. So someone was trying to get into the coded messages, and security measures basically kicked in. Everything kind of froze. So if somehow Aquiel is the dog, I'm going to scream. I had 50 billion theories throughout watching this episode. I was wrong every single time.
Yeah.
Okay, so Geordi goes into another room to check out more files. It turns out it's her bedroom, and the dog just lies down on the bed. The dog's name is Mora. We learn a bit later on.
Her bedroom is
Mora
literally just right off the main workroom of this station.
Yeah, she can never be late for work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Although, to be honest, the closer I live to something, I'm usually more likely to be late.
Okay, that's fair.
Just because I'm like, I have time, until suddenly I don't.
Yeah. Okay, so Mora lies down on the bed, starts barking, and I'm like, oh, is the dog trying to warn Geordi about something? No, they weren't. Mora was not. I'm like, oh, is there... What? I wrote, there's some kind of jewelry? What is this piece supposed to go? I don't even know what this is supposed to mean.
Geordi was, like, looking at the stuff on her weird IKEA table display thing.
Yeah.
Oh, right, and then he gives her a bone, like Mora, a bone.
He does.
And then,
Like
so
an
he's
acrylic bone, which would be so terrible for a dog.
No. It's one of those. It's one of those rubber ones. Yeah,
Oh, is
I
it?
know. It looks acrylic.
looked
They used to
clear.
make them like semi-transparent.
Okay.
Okay, so then Geordi starts listening to station logs. Aquiel's having, like a chat about, like, her mom and a slanted house. So, okay. So
It's like a nightmare she was having.
yeah. So Dr. C thinks Aquiel's cause of death may be from a high-level phaser blast. And Geordi finds evidence that the encrypted messages have been tampered with. Riker is like, I'm not one to point fingers, but the Klingons are nearby, so let me just point a finger over in that direction for a minute.
Yeah.
And, Geordi's, like, having a hard time with the computer. Just heard as he tried turning it off and on again. So Geordi asks finally it starts work. He asks the computer to run a diagnostic and gets an iced coffee from the replicator. So the Mora barks to let him know that there's something on the monitor. Geordi's like, oh, hello. And we see, we get our first image of Aquiel. She's standing, and somehow the camera, what camera this is, follows her from a standing position to a seated position.
I was really hoping you would notice that.
How?
Yeah.
How? That makes no fucking sense. What camera is that? Makes no sense.
Also, I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm also surprised that, like, the concept of an iced coffee exists in 1993 for some reason. Maybe I'm just
Yeah,
dumb.
probably.
Yeah. But
I was
also,
more caught up at, like, the iced coffee in the future.
yeah. But, okay, this means, by modern standards, we know Geordi probably a little fruity. Because the whole meme is that gays drink iced coffee.
No wonder he
Gays
can't get a
never-
date.
I know, right? That's the first thing I thought of, and it's like, oh, I found his problem with women.
Okay, so yeah, okay. She sits down. We can see, she needs to sit down so we can see Mora in the background. So now she's singing. She's actually got a great voice. The actress sounds amazing.
Oh, sorry.
Just like,
Before you move on, I just wanted to point out that, like, when we first see Aquiel, and it's the shot of Geordi, basically he's like, oh no, she's hot.
yeah. Oh, I've got a point in here about this. So Geordi needs to stop touching all her shit, and her message to her sister Shiana, Aquiel's like, oh, I'm having dreams and super scared because of this Klingon, and he's getting more aggressive, and the Klingon's name is Morag. He locked his disruptors to the station. Okay. Aquiel is being triggered to relive childhood trauma relating to her shitty dad, which sucks. Commander Morag, Klingon officer who patrols the sector of the border, basically passes by the station every few days to harass them. So Picard speaks with the Klingon governor Torak, and immediately Torak's like, it's all lies, and I won't stand for it.
Yeah, he's like, how dare you?
Yeah, he's like, you're a fake and a phony, and I wish I never laid eyes on you.
Yeah.
So Picard's like, sorry, my bad. You had no idea what was going on. Okay, that's cool. I won't bother you with this then. But I will bother Gowron.
Yeah.
And Torak's like, oh, no, that's okay. Please bother me with this. That's okay. Gowron doesn't need to be bothered.
Yeah, maybe I'll just talk to Gowron, my best friend.
The reason he's in power. Yeah. No, that's fine. So Geordi accesses Aquiel's personal logs, and we see her doing a wig haul for her sister. This is a wild wig.
Yeah.
I don't know why she ordered this, why she got. I
Neither
don't know.
does Geordi.
but-
I'll be honest, I
okay.
kind of liked it.
It's fun. I
it's-
just like the logic of that.
Yeah.
What is she ordering? How is number one? Why? How? What is she doing with a wig there? I don't know. It
Well, she could
doesn't
probably
make a lot
just
of sense.
replicate it, right?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I'm just like in my because
Ship
I'm
stores will
thinking
have
about the show wise. I'm just like she.
Yeah.
Oh, did they have a mall also on
Yes,
this
for
real
both the
estate
people who
station?
live on it.
Yeah.
Yes, they have a wig.
No,
they have
here's
a
the-
wig store.
In the future, malls have been determined essential. So it's like
As they should.
yeah, it's like having a bedroom. You know, they have to have a mall, no matter the size.
Yeah, of course. So Aquiel tells her sister that she didn't follow an order from Keith Rocha, who's the other guy, and proceeds to tell her sister that she tells her all this shit, and I'm like, wait, how, like, about what they're doing, and I'm like, I feel like this is supposed to be confidential. Is she like allowed to be telling her sister this shit? I feel like no.
Well,
But
when we get a sense of
I
her
don't
character, I feel like she probably does not care about that.
yeah,
She probably thinks it's like, well, it's like, you know, when someone's like, don't tell anybody, but you're like, okay, but like,
wink, wink.
but like, my bestie doesn't count.
Yeah. Okay, so dog's so cute. Aquiel mentions she misses Muskin seed punch. And so the dog Mora goes over to Geordi for a little cuddle, and it's really cute. In this other log, Aquiel hears a noise and the video cuts out. Gasp. So Worf finds traces of Klingon DNA at the station. Geordi has now watched all of Aquiel's logs, and he can't find Keith, so he's running a diagnostic. Picard lets Riker know that Governor Tarok has, oh boy, I'm gonna assume, arrived. Wow, that was almost a struggle. Arrived and meet in the observation lounge. Picard goes to welcome Torak, and he's like, enough with the pleasantries. We didn't kill Aquiel, and we can prove it. Because here she is. And everyone's like, gasp. Here she actually is.
And
Now
here
for
she
the
is,
second-
bring in a bloodied, abused woman.
And so then I wrote, now this is the second time Geordi has become interested in a woman based on digital versions
Yeah.
of themselves, not the real person.
Yep.
Like, Geordi,
Yeah.
stop.
But that's the thing, is like, if this was anyone other than Geordi, it's actually perfectly reasonable for them to like go through their personal logs like in a murder investigation, right? And it's
Yeah.
perfectly reasonable for someone to like sort of, when you're going through all someone's like personal shit, it makes sense to get attached to them, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's just, it feels weird because it's Geordi and he's had those previous storylines.
Yeah, it's like, what's that say? It's
Yeah.
like, if I had 2 nickels for every time
Yeah.
Geordi fell for a woman who was not physically there.
Yeah.
I'd have 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but still weird. It's happened twice.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is, like, I thought it was weird too, and I wanted to make a joke about it. But also, in all fairness, the episode does establish that it appears she is dead before he starts going through her personal stuff. So I'll give
yeah,
it a pass
yeah.
this
Still,
time.
but
it's
Yeah,
right in
I
that
won't
line,
give it
you
a
know?
pass, but I won't give it a pass, but I'll allow it for
Yeah.
now. There better not be a third time this happens. Oh my god. Okay. So Aquiel says that Keith was being weird and irritable, and he attacked her, and he grabbed her, threw her against a bulkhead. She yelled at him to stop. He didn't, and grabbed her by the throat. She broke free, tried to get to the weapons locker, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. She ended up in the shuttle on the Klingon side of the border. So Picard's like, why didn't you reach out to Starfleet? And she's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't even know how long I was in the shuttle for until the Klingons picked her up. And, but I just was like, if she was awake on the shuttle at some point, why did she not reach out to anybody though?
Well, it's like
don't
she
know.
was kind of, so I wanted to get into this after, and I
I
don't,
mean, we can put a
I
pin
think
in
we
that.
should, yeah.
Okay.
This and come back to it.
yeah, because like I essentially just, I'll go into more detail, but basically I think she was arguably in like sort of a fugue state. Like she wasn't really thinking, she was kind of disassociating, is my read on it. That's why she didn't really think to reach out to anybody.
I mean, okay, well, we'll come back to this.
Yeah.
So in total, she was gone for 46 hours. The crew is like, okay, so the remains are Keith then. But Dr. C's like, we can't really confirm that. And Riker asks Aquiel if she made it to the weapons locker. She says no. And then he's like, oh no, I wrote this. I thought I put this as a quote from someone else, but I wrote this. I said, girl, the more you say, the more I'm doubting you. So the current theory that the residue is Keith. Aquiel did not let any Klingons on board, so someone must have arrived after she left. So Worf says, have the courage to admit your mistakes. Mm-hmm. Oh, Worf. So Picard is like, Aquiel said in the logs that Morag was harassing them, and Torag's like, how dare you? He's just doing his job. Sure, Jan. Mm-hmm. So Picard's like, oh, so if he was just doing his job, then it would be totally fine for us to talk to him then. Like, totally chill, totally cool.
Yeah.
And then Geordi's like, I know a friend of yours who will be really happy to see you. And she goes, who? And I was like, is she the bad guy? Because she forgot about her dog.
Yeah.
She just was like, who? What do you mean, who? Aquiel.
She may have assumed the dog was like, dead.
But I don't know. I wrote red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, if anything ever happened, like, my first thought would always be, like, is the dog okay? But, I mean, that is just me. So, the dog is named Mora after a character in a book, and, oh, okay.
Gothic
so then,
romance, it seems.
Yeah, which Geordi's not into, but... Geordi, listen, give it a try. Get one of your iced coffees and give it a go.
Yeah.
Listen,
I feel like not immediately worrying about the dog, red flag. Gothic romance, green flag.
Yeah.
So she's like plussing and minusing points here.
I was so confused for so much of this. Not like I understood what was happening. I just like could not figure out what was like the bigger picture of this.
Yeah. I mean, that is kind of the point. Like it's they want you to not really get a full handle on what's what.
Yeah. Okay, so then like they show that Mora has like destroyed Geordi's shoes, and I was like, how did this dog destroy Geordi's shoes while he was wearing them? Did he bring an extra pair of shoes for the dog to like go at? But then we do see later that the dog goes but like how did the dog get all these shoes?
Well, it implies that Geordi took off and left his shoes there, which is weird.
Yeah, but I'm like, that's exactly it. I'm like, how does this dog have a full out pair of Geordi's shoes? Mm-hmm. Did he bring the dog a pair? Did he leave a pair? That's weird. Either way, that's really weird.
Yeah.
But we do see later that the dog really goes for his shoes while he's wearing them. Mm-hmm. But that would still mean that he took them off to give to the dog. But anyways, that's beside the point. Okay, so Geordi brings Aquiel onto the Enterprise. She kind of wants a different vibe, so he takes her to 10 forward. She gets a Muskin seed punch. Geordi is like, oh, hard pass.
Yeah.
She is Halayan? Is that how it's pronounced?
I believe so, yeah, Halayan.
And so Geordi knows some of the language because he traveled a lot when he was young. And Aquiel's like, oh, super opposite. We're like 5 generations living in this one house. And Geordi's like, oh yeah, the one on the hill. And she's like, excuse me?
Yeah.
How the fuck do you know about that? She doesn't say it quite like that, but she's like, how do you know about that? And he's like, oh, fuck. But Geordi comes clean. Yeah. Doesn't drag out, which is good. And he's like, yeah, I've seen all your like logs and shit.
I mean,
but don't worry, but for professional reasons only. Yeah. I wasn't a creep.
Yeah. I think it like, I don't think like Geordi does come clean like immediately as soon as like, she questions him. But I do feel like he probably should have told her that, like, immediately.
Earlier.
Yeah, earlier. Yeah. To be like, listen, just so you know, we thought you were
full
dead.
Full disclosure.
And we had to,
Yeah.
I don't think he's like super wrong in that, but I do feel like he probably should have brought it up on his own.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's like very understandably upset. But because Geordi was looking at her logs for professional reasons, not for the lulz, she's like, I'll allow it. Okay, so she then asks Geordi, now that he met her, is she what he expected? And Geordi's not sure. It's like, the woman in the logs is very complicated. He thinks there's more to her that meets the eye, as basically it is with anyone. So
Yeah.
Geordi...
She's a transformer.
Okay, so then Aquiel explains that Keith was only there for 5 days.
Yeah.
He was only in the relay station for 5 days, and they like basically annoyed the shit out of each other. And she like enjoyed doing stuff to piss him off. And I'm just like, and he's like, why would you do something that you know would make him angry? And she's like, oh, he was a dick from the second like we met, but she didn't want him dead.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know why he attacked her. So we're just hard assuming Keith is dead at this point.
Yeah.
So Riker shows Picard Keith's record, and Starfleet, big fan of Keith. And meanwhile, Riker spoke with Aquiel's former commanding officer, who said she was argumentative, quick to take offense, and he transferred her to the relay station because she was hampering their efforts. It's like, oh my god. Also, did not get that impression from her.
Yeah.
Like, I was surprised. I came up with so many theories for this, because then I was like, okay, what if like she's being possessed by something and it's not really her? Or like maybe the
You got
like
close with
her
that
command. Yeah, but I was wrong about who.
Yeah. And exactly quite the minutia of it.
To be perfectly
Yeah.
fair, like in the background of this episode being produced, they didn't even know who the murderer was when they were writing it. They changed their mind like 3 times.
It shows.
Yeah,
it
it really
shows.
does.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so Riker's like, listen, I'm having trouble believing her story. And I'm like, Riker, so he sends Worf to check the weapons locker and the relay station. There's a phaser that's missing. Picard's like, oh, we don't really have enough evidence to like really go either way on this. So Riker should take a look at the shuttle. Aquiel says to Geordi that she understands that she's a murder suspect, but like after watching her logs, does Geordi really think she would commit murder? He does not. Geordi, I mean, technically anyone can
You're
really commit murder.
A
but,
little too trusting, Geordi.
But I was so sure that she was going to be like, she did the murder. I was like, that would be just like
That was the original
I was like,
plan.
stick with it. That would be that, and Geordi would be like, no, ultimate betrayal.
Yeah. I mean, they wanted to do like sort of, or at least like from watching the episode, it's clear they
It
wanted
was like
to
a
do...
shitty bait and switch.
Yeah.
Have
Exactly.
have either of you guys seen the seen the noir film Laura?
No.
No.
Okay, so it's from the mid-'40s. I mean, it's a noir film. What do you expect? And it has very much the same premise. It's about a New York detective who's investigating a murder, and it turns out that the woman who was murdered shows up and was not murdered, and then she's a suspect in the murder, and then someone else is the murderer, and like they basically lifted the story from that, but they kept changing around trying to figure out like, all right, who's the real murderer in our story? And yeah, they had a really bad time pinning that down, but when we get to it, god, there's some funny behind the scenes stuff about it.
Ooh, party. Okay, so Aquiel. Oh, she's like, I was like, is she putting the moves on Geordi? She's like, oh, I don't make friends easily. I'm like, I truly, from what we saw of her in the logs and when we see her in person, and then they're like, oh, she's actually this way though. I'm like, they are giving me multiple people, because I don't get all these vibes from her at all. She's like, oh, I have a hard time making friends, and I was like, what?
Yeah,
She seems really chill. Like, I don't get, and they're like, oh, she doesn't, she's like, she was hampering their efforts. What? Like, this does not come up at all in like her character.
No, the description of who she is doesn't really match the character that's on screen.
Yeah. And I
So,
didn't really buy her being into Geordi.
No,
Yeah,
neither did
there's-
the writers.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I the chemistry just wasn't quite there. Like
No,
I
it
think
wasn't.
like
You're right.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then Worf finds the missing phaser on the shuttle. It is set to kill. That's what Worf says. So Riker and Worf confront Aquiel about the phaser. She doesn't remember. Maybe she shot in self-defense. She doesn't really know. But Dr. C says for the type of cellular breakdown on the remains, the phaser would have had to be going for 30 to 40 seconds. So that would mean business. Geordi's like, hey, innocent until proven guilty, right? We don't have the proof to make any accusations at the moment. Accusations. I'm like Aquiel. Accusations at the moment. Geordi wants to go back to try to get access to Keith's logs again. Riker's like, Geordi, as your friend, you got to take a step back. You're getting too personally involved in something that we really don't know enough about yet. And Riker goes, I think you are letting your personal feelings cloud your judgment. And Geordi goes, I'm not the one making judgments. Geordi, you decided, Geordi, I love you, but you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Oh my
Wait,
God,
no,
unrelated.
I think they're both kind of right, though. I think, Riker's, a little too harsh in his,
Yes.
belief, and Geordi is 1,000% too emotionally involved.
But
Yeah.
in that scene just prior to that, Riker quite literally says, "Look, we're not making accusations here." A second after he finishes making not 2 but 3 accusations against her.
I noticed that, too.
Yeah, this is a messy episode.
It is
Also,
extremely
okay,
messy, right?
sorry, I just wanted to bring this up because I don't know if this was the writer's intention, if this is part of the show Bible or something, but I've noticed, and I think it's a really interesting character quirk of Riker's, that he seems to be extra hostile towards anyone he thinks is not a good Starfleet officer. So he has friction with Ro. I can't remember.
Yeah, he does.
There's a couple other examples I can't think of off the top of my head, but it does seem to be consistent that he regularly reacts in sort of a non-Riker way towards people he doesn't think are good Starfleet officers.
Oh, I've never noticed that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I do want to just say a very minor side note. I went antiquing on the weekend with my brother, and when we were there at this antique mall in Hamilton, what did we find but a Geordi, a Guinan,
Oh, yeah.
Q action figures, the same as my Worf one. And I was like, ooh, do I get them? I didn't.
Very sad.
Were they the ones you showed us that were super fucked up?
No.
That were really ugly?
That's a different place. That was a different antique mall I went to. That was in Innisfil. No, these were the ones that were close to my Wharf one that I've posted on our Instagram. That generation version. Yeah. So yeah, there was a Guinan one too. I was like, oh, well. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, so that was just a side note thing. Okay, so meep. Geordi finally gets access to Keith's logs and notices that a day of logs have been deleted by unknown. Morag's DNA was found in the bulkheads and the console. Morag goes by the station every 6 days, and 3 days ago he hailed them. There was no answer, and he was quote unquote concerned, so he went aboard to investigate. No one was there, so he left. So but Morag, when he was there, he didn't go empty-handed. He took 27 Starfleet messages, but he killed no one.
Yeah.
He wanted to make that clear. He didn't kill anyone.
I do really enjoy that particular scene because he's like, "This is an outrage! How dare you!" And he does that twice, and then both times, Torag looks over at him, and it's just like, "Come on!" And he's like, "Okay, yes, I did that." But I didn't do anything else. Okay, yes, I did that too.
Yeah, Torek is just like, okay, dude, not right now.
Yep.
So, okay, the crew's like, okay, we're going to keep Morag on the Enterprise during this investigation. It's their version of Don't Leave Town.
Yeah.
So Geordi realizes that Aquiel is the one who deleted the missing Keith logs, and Keith was going to ask Starfleet for a formal hearing about her. I was like, Girl, he was there 5 days.
Yeah.
What the fuck happened that it was so bad that, like, he needed, after 5 days,
Yeah.
to call for a hearing?
The episode really isn't consistent about, like, what its problems are. It seems like every new problem seems to invalidate something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
so
think later on we sort of realize that, like, there's reasons that he wasn't really acting in character and was, like, off the handle. Mm-hmm. So, to me, like, in retrospect, that seems consistent with the conclusion of the episode.
Yes.
Okay, so I do like that Geordi. Okay, I wrote this and then immediately I was like, fuck. I wrote that I like that Geordi's not letting her brush this off, and he, like, really confronts her about deleting the logs, and then she's like immediately like, Geordi, listen to me, and he's like, okay, it's fine. So she was gonna, like, run away. And I'm like, wow, for someone who keeps doing super sketchy things while saying she didn't do it, this is, like, a really extra weird choice.
Yeah.
And then Geordi's like, you can't run. And, he's like, you can't run. And she's like, oh, you believe I'm innocent. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll show you how much I believe you're innocent by kissing you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Geordi, what the fuck? And
Kiss a vulnerable, scared woman for romance.
None of it made sense. So, okay, I was really confused because I thought initially they were like, okay, the DNA is Aquiel's initially that on the thing.
They did keep saying that they couldn't get a clear, like, reading.
But then I realized it was her blood, not her DNA. Well, I guess that's, like, close enough, but, like, different areas, whatever. Because I was like, I don't get why they keep changing who the freaking DNA belongs to. So that was confusing on my part. I do realize where I was wrong there, where I was mistaken. Okay, so Dr. C is lasering a pizza tray of silly putty, which is really fucking gross. And then oh my god, then the silly putty comes alive and we got fucking flubber over here.
Yeah.
Just sort of, the blob touches Dr. C's hand and then, like, the blob turns into her hand sticking out of the
really creepily
silly putty pizza. Yeah, it is gross. So Geordi is like, wait, I wrote, Geordi, stop. Oh, Aquiel is like, Geordi, I want to share.
Sorry.
Aquiel's like, Geordi, I want to share something with you for a way we can be more intimate. Her people are partially telepathic. They use this glass thing to focus their thoughts and also use it for a stronger emotional link during love.
Yeah.
I hated that line so much, but also this is when I was like, oh, she's going to, like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, she's going to, like, she's going to turn Geordi into whatever she is, or she's going to absorb Geordi. I was, like, fully like, oh, because this was really fucking weird. And since it didn't go the way I thought it was, now it's extra fucking weird.
Yeah. Because she acts super fucking sketchy about it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, because I wrote in my notes, it feels like she's going to trap Geordi's soul in there. And so then he's like, oh, do we both need to be telepathic for this to work? And she's like, let's see. What? I'm like, where's the dog? Where's the dog hanging out if you guys are in the room by yourselves? Okay, so then Geordi takes off his visor, and Dr. C thinks they're dealing with a covalescent organism. So basically, it is a rare microscopic life forms which need to absorb other organisms in order to survive. Coalescents become the organism they have absorbed right down to the cellular level. There have been reports that these organisms can exist on a larger scale. Dr. C does not think that Keith even made it to the relay station. She thinks that he was the covalescent. And
he was replaced, like, before he got to the station, which is why he was acting so different.
Yeah. So Keith then he attacked Aquiel to find a new body because he can't really live that long in their spaces. They have to like move on. So I was like, oh, she's going to absorb Geordi. And then I was like, oh, Geordi can never catch a break with women.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the dialogue is like bit between the scene with Geordi and Aquiel in the with that weird crystal thing. It is definitely trying to be like, oh yeah, she's the one. Like here's how it goes.
So yeah, Riker arrives in what I thought was the nick of time. And Riker's like, Geordi, step away. And but then he like stands in front of her and he's like, Geordi, you better move. And I'm like, Geordi, if you like side with Aquiel right now over Riker, like that's bad. So I wrote, it's 100% Aquiel. She was going to absorb Geordi. Come on, Riker. And he's like, well, it still could be Morak. I'm like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. So then I wrote, lol, it's Mora. It's the dog.
Yeah.
Now, for the record,
I hated that. I hated it.
They went back and forth several times trying to figure out, okay, well, who's going to be the murderer in the end? And it all felt really unsatisfying. And apparently, one of the writers just kind of shot his shot and was like, why not the dog? And they went with
so
it.
did I, because this point, it was not revealed that it was the dog. So my line that I wrote was, I wrote, LOL, it's Mora. She's the organism, LOL.
Were you predicting or joking? Or
this was,
both?
I was joking, and then it was revealed like a moment, like later in that scene, because then Mora goes for Geordi's pants and he's like, stop it. And then it was revealed that, Mora is it. Yeah. So Mora turns into basically what looked like to be a giant piece of shit. And goes for Geordi, and Geordi goes for a phaser. And that makes the poop bigger. So I wrote, call Geordi a plunger the way he just got rid of that poop.
Terrible.
Yeah. So Geordi thinks Aquiel can't remember because the process drained the memories out of her. So like it was in the process of like taking her, but then I don't know, she got out of it. Okay. So, so now we're back in 10 forward, end of the episode, and Aquiel's actually in this like cute top with like cool arm jewelry, and she's going to Starbase 212 for reassignment, and Geordi's like, oh, I can like hook you up with like a new position here, but she's like, hard pass, I don't want to be a Nepo girlfriend, so sorry, Geordi, bye. And that's it.
So for the record, this episode started off with the idea to give Geordi a reoccurring romance, and then they came up with the idea of, oh wait, no, let's make a murder mystery. And then they made her the primary villain for a while, and then changed their mind partway through, and then at the end decided, well, we're not going to keep her anyway.
Yeah.
What a fucking roller coaster.
This was a messy episode.
It is extremely messy. It went through real heavy rewrites. It basically, like, they didn't know what they were going to do with it. It was an idea that they ran with. In the end, it ends up being one of the biggest letdowns of the season for the writers. They did not feel good about it. After seeing it, they definitely thought it was better than they expected it was going to be, but they were not happy with what they wrote.
Yo, that writer who was like, it's the dog, 100%. I bet you he loves The Thing.
Oh yes,
John Carpenter's The Thing.
No, you're 100% right. That's what they were. That's what they went with for the CGI. Yes, they were thinking The Thing. Nice. For the record, it was oh damn, what's his name? The Klingon guy.
Ronald D. Moore.
Yes, there we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I noticed I noticed this was a collab with Braga and Ronald D. Moore.
That's right. Yeah. So they
look
they
at me go remembering people.
Nice.
They didn't come up with the episode story. I think that was Jerry Taylor. And the two of them were tasked with turning it into an episode, and neither of them are happy with this result. But Ron Moore actually he quite enjoyed the Klingon stuff. He had fun with that. He was like, "That was a good little C plot kind of thing."
Oh, of course. That's like
Yeah.
his thing.
It is his jam, yeah. And they casted it really well. Those Klingons were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, the episode just kind of ends like out of nowhere. Like it's got this tiny ass coda with Geordi in what is presumably the worst fashion choice that they've made for him in several years. Because that
But
was
a great choice for Aquiel. That was a good outfit.
That was
for her.
definitely that was definitely a Starfleet uniform that was also entirely military green.
Yeah.
So good times there.
So Dory, I feel confident in saying that you are never going to watch The Thing because it's specifically a body horror movie. So
Yep.
that's like
hard run away from.
yeah, that's like a million strikes for you.
Yeah.
So
I don't like body horror.
So spoilers for the audience for John Carpenter's The Thing. But the reason I brought it up is because that movie starts. It turned like they're in the Antarctic. I believe it's the Antarctic, right? Or is it the Arctic?
I think it's the Antarctic.
Yeah. Anyway, they're researchers on the Antarctic, and one day, like, a dog comes running into their camp being chased by, like, Norwegian researchers that are on a different part, that are, like, you know, part of a different research group. And, like, they're shooting at it, and they're like, what the fuck? And then I don't remember what happens. I think they crash the helicopter or something, like the Norwegians die.
Yep.
And then they're like, turns out that the dog is the thing. So the dog is like, starts taking over people and replacing people and shit. So like,
Honestly, I would die so quickly in that situation.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was like, dog, I will take care of you forever.
of course,
Until it kills me.
that's another reason why you would hate this movie is because there is some like very graphic dog death, very fucked up dog death. It's not
Honestly,
a real dog
it-
in the story of the movie, but still,
Still, I don't like animals getting hurt.
yeah.
So
But like that's what I immediately thought of, like, because I rarely watch this episode, so I don't know if this is because I subconsciously like remember the episode or if it's just because I know the thing so well. I'm like, it's probably the fucking dog. Like immediately, like when they brought up that it was like a shapeshifter thing.
No, I only guessed it as a joke.
Yeah. That's very funny. I love it when jokes turn
dumb.
into reality.
Yeah, it was like truly like right before it was revealed.
Nice.
So dumb, because I wrote lol twice in my note.
with good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, this ep is a mess, and it certainly exists, and that's about it. Oh, actually, after they decided that they weren't going to keep around Aquiel, they ended up deciding that, oh, well, we introduced this dog, and we don't have anything to do with it. This is before they decided the dog is the murderer. And they thought, well, maybe we'll keep the dog around for Geordi and, you know, have them come back sometimes. And they had a scene written into the end of it where the dog had chewed up Geordi's stuff around his quarters, and Data is supposed to close the episode with, Spock never does this, which obviously they couldn't do after the dog was the murderer.
Yeah.
Dog was the murderer.
The murderer.
God, what a fucking guys.
I'll have to remember to save that clip of you saying the dog was the murderer for the season recap song.
Oh yes.
Oh my gosh.
Excellent. Oh, God,
You have
fucking
the
damn
right
it.
to not bark. Oh, anything you bark will be said against.
No, anything you woof can and will be used against you.
In the pound of law.
Yes.
The pound of law.
Ugh, that sounds
Oh my
so
god!
gross.
Instead of the big house, the dog house.
Oh. God, that's
Straight
painful.
to the dog house.
Yeah.
Fuck.
no toys in the doghouse. Yeah, this episode is not great.
Yeah.
Sure
So
ain't.
my theory about why Aquiel, like, I guess I forgot that they explained it in the episode that the thing like drained her memory or whatever. But in my opinion, and I don't think this was the writer's intention, because I don't think like public understanding of this was like enough that they would do this, and they didn't do it enough in the episode. But my theory is that she has PTSD, and that the attack like sort of triggered her, and she just like went into fight or flight, and kind of was just in a dissociative state, where she like tried to protect herself and then get away as fast as she could.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the implication, but of course, this being the 90s, they immediately went to, well, you just conveniently don't remember, eh?
Yeah, like the writers might have had that in mind, but like I think like if they did it in the episode, I can't remember exactly. I mean, I was like 4 years old, so I don't know what the sort of general understanding was. Like, I think PTSD was definitely like clinically, I think like that was like the term by then.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
It definitely was. It just wouldn't have been considered for something as like minor as this.
Yeah,
it would have been like,
wasn't...
oh, you experienced PTSD because you witnessed all your friends die in the Gulf War or something like that. But something like this would just be like, oh yeah, you were just like pushed around. You're fine.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't like, probably wasn't common knowledge like to the general public. And yeah, because even nowadays, some people think that PTSD is only something that soldiers get,
Yes.
It's like, becoming better, because like they hint at her like at like her abusive childhood and stuff like that. So and she explicitly says like she has this dream, and like she feels the same like danger and panic that she felt like from
Morak?
what was the guy's name?
Morak?
Rocha.
Oh, from Keith.
Yeah, she feels the same like sort of panic. Oh no, you're right. It was from the Klingon.
Yeah, because she was saying he's getting aggressive.
Yeah, but it shows that she has like this panic response to like sort of danger and physical attacks. So that's the way I kind of view it as. I think that personally makes a lot more sense than like, you drained your memory. Because that still wouldn't have explained why she didn't contact Starfleet or anything like that afterwards. So I think she was just like dissociating for like a pretty long time. Which is a thing that can happen too. Like I've seen quite a few anecdotes of people where they talk about like waking up from their dissociation, and it's been like years. And they're like,
Whoa.
yeah, and it's like, it's like I woke up and it's like, wait, when did I become a barista?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So unrelated, but something just popped into my head. I mean, related to the episode, just unrelated to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. If their theory is that Keith never made it to the relay station, are we saying that the organism was going to recommend a hearing for Aquiel?
Yeah.
What the fuck? What was the point of that?
Yeah, like does the organism continue to act like whatever it is they've replaced, or does it have its
I feel
own
like it's gotta
personality,
be.
or what?
I feel like it's gotta have its own other kind of consciousness as well. But like, that makes no sense.
I mean, when it was a dog, it was doing dog stuff.
Yeah, but he was still like acknowledging and making noises and doing stuff that like dogs probably, like when Aquiel like does the video on the screen, like or like just like there's certain gestures or reactions that like a dog wouldn't naturally do per se.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, I feel like the organism's got to be somewhat, like, conscious or, like, you know, have some kind of awareness. Because then how else would they know to, like, gotta find someone new to, like, move into?
Yeah.
I mean,
it
maybe
could just be
they retain
instinct.
something of, maybe they retain something of them, but, like, to me, that's really funny, of the idea that it was not Keith who,
Yeah.
who wanted to do the hearing. It was the organism.
That is really funny. That is very funny.
So like Keith could have been like a pretty nice guy for all we know, and she just was arguing with the organism for 5 days.
Yeah.
And okay, that also would make me feel like the organism has some kind of awareness. Because if Keith is so high regarded by all these other officers and whatever, I feel like it wouldn't, like, 5 days to break someone enough to, like, that I feel like Keith would would not, like, resort to calling a hearing after 5 days if someone didn't, you know, like, it wasn't like she was, like, fucking things up. She just, like, wanted to do her own thing. Yeah, she went against his orders, but we just know of one instance. We don't know of other times or how often this sort of came up. So, like,
Okay, so here's a theory. Maybe it was doing it to, like, keep up appearances, and it was planning on killing her and becoming her. So then that would explain the disappearance of Rocha. He'd be like, it would, it would look
but
like she
also,
killed him.
if they were doing a hearing, would she have to go in person
Yes.
to a starbase?
Yes.
Possibly.
That makes more sense, because then because maybe the organism realized there's nothing else on the ship.
Yeah.
They need to get off the ship. They need to get more people. I think they were self-aware.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think so. Maybe they wanted to do the hearing to get off so they could become Aquiel, get off the ship, and then they could go absorb somebody else, another person.
Dory,
because they wouldn't have any idea. I'm sure no one thought this far about it.
Yeah, Dory, I was going to say, I have an opinion, and that's that you have just considered this life form situation far more than the writers did.
That tracks.
Yeah.
I thought more about a plot point than the writers did. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
One day I'm gonna meet like Ronald D. Moore or something, and he's gonna be like, I'm not gonna be able to look him in the eye.
And he's going to say, don't you want to ask me about Battlestar
Or like,
Galactica?
or Brennan Braga or Jerry Taylor ever become go in the same. I mean, I don't know. There's no chance, but like, I ever in the same room as these people, I'm not gonna be able to look at them.
Listen, Dory, they got to get one out every week.
That's true, yep. Hopefully next week they do better.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay. Unless anyone has something else they want to bring up, I think it's fair to move on to favorite moments and lines.
Yeah, we can do that.
Mora, before we knew she was a murderer.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess, like, yeah. She was so cute.
Yeah.
And I liked Aquiel's outfit in the last scene. I liked her, like, arm jewelry.
Yeah.
And I think that... I liked Worf saying about the missing phaser. He finds it on the shuttle. He goes, "It is set to kill." I liked how he said that.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, I like Dr. C transporting onto the stairs. Like, what? Why?
Yeah. Honestly, not too much favorite in this episode. Like, it's not the worst episode in the world. It's fine, but like, yeah, there's really not a lot to it. But my favorite part is when the other Klingon guy is trying to bullshit, and Worf is like, "Have the courage to admit your mistakes." Like, I just thought he was really cool in that scene. I like that Worf got a moment to be cool.
I did find that quite amusing.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's actually right near the beginning. So I'm gonna tell a little bit of story for this. Years ago, when I saw the Terminator for the first time, which one of our listeners will be surprised I never actually finished watching it. But anyway, there's a moment where there's a guy in like a truck where they're teleporting into
I think I know what you're.
what do you call it? Where he's teleporting into like the modern day, and the guy in the truck says, "What the hell?" And then literally like 3 seconds later, they use the exact same clip of him saying, "What the hell?" again.
Yeah.
And anyway, they do that at the beginning of this episode. Hey,
do they?
Pooch! Hey, Pooch!
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's the same clip of him saying it, but the second time they just use it as ADR because his face is invisible. So, yes, I found that very amusing because when he said it the first time, I didn't remember the episode for years, but I was like, wait a minute, I remember that line really well. I wonder what... Oh, that's why. Because it's super weird and out of place because it happens again immediately afterwards.
Yeah.
So I found that tiny bit of editing very amusing for some reason.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so time for predictions for the next episode. All right, the next episode is called Face of the Enemy, and this is a Troy episode.
I so badly want to be like, oh, yay, but I'm also like, oh, no.
So your little tidbit is that Troy gets kidnapped by spies and is forced to go undercover with basically no preparation.
Of course. Of fucking course she does. Oh, my God. Okay. Okay. She's kidnapped by spies and she has to go undercover.
So like,
okay, I imagine she was kidnapped because there's something that maybe she specifically has access to. And I'm wondering if it's maybe related to the fact that like her mom is basically like royalty-ish.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, she's the
And
holder
she's-
of the
she's
Sacred
very
Chalice of
important.
Reeks. We know.
yeah, she's
Yeah.
really diplomatically important.
Okay, yeah, but maybe she either... Okay, I'm sort of thinking a two-pronged thing. Either they need Troy specifically because of some connection she has, or they want her for, like, the vibes. Like, I don't mean, like, her being their vibes. I mean, like her being like, oh, no, they're, like getting the vibes from other people.
Yeah,
situation.
her empathic powers. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like either options, but okay. I'm going to go with they want her empath powers and use her to, get whatever this... Maybe it's a person. Maybe they kidnap her to try to get a person. And I guess they're using her as like a human lie detector or some shit. I don't know. Ooh. It's hard.
Yeah.
I'm really bummed she gets
I mean,
kidnapped.
that's how Picard uses her, so makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but she kind of chose to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's the job she signed up for.
Okay, let me rephrase that. That's the way the scripts always use her.
Yeah, I think someone kidnaps her to use her empath powers to try to like figure out where someone else is,
Okay.
to rescue someone else who was maybe like arrested or like put away in like an unfair, or I guess whoever's doing the rescuing, they think it's like wrongly imprisoned. Or for all I know, they're probably just like someone from their friend, and they're just like, let's bust him out. Yeah, they're gonna use Troy's empath powers to get another person.
Do you have any guess as to like who might have kidnapped her?
Oh,
Like maybe not a specific person, but maybe like a group or whatnot.
You don't think I should guess just like Joe? Just like that one guy? I shouldn't be super specific.
Yeah, definitely that one guy.
Yeah.
Unless this is somebody that this is a group maybe that we've visited before. Which
That's possible.
I think it
I mean,
does, because how could
it's important to remember that this season of TNG has already looked back on previous episodes of TNG a couple of times already, so who's to say they won't do it again?
I'm sure they will, but I purposely try not to remember people from Troy's episodes because they're usually monsters.
That's completely understandable.
Yeah.
I try to block that stuff out of my head.
What are you talking about? There's that guy who said that he was in love with her, and for no earthly reason, she was in love with him too.
Do you know what's funny? Is this the episode where they were like, "Oh, our genetics are superior"? Is that the episode? Is that the guy you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I was referencing.
Okay, because yay, okay. See, I get it.
I remember stuff.
Yeah. Look at me go.
I watched the movie good.
I paid attention on a TV show. Okay, I'm gonna assuming we've met. I feel like we just saw the. Okay, no, I'm just trying to think who would like want to use her empath powers.
Obviously, Moriarty.
Yes, absolutely. Because he was definitely important to one of Troy's previous stories.
That's right.
It just was like her dad. We've never met her dad. Is her dad dead?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Okay. That would be wild.
I don't think they went into
to
detail
like
about
find her dad.
Yeah, I don't think they went into detail about how. Like they've just kind of mentioned it or mentioned him a bit, and in passing that he was gone, and that was it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because I think he passed away when she was a kid, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So I guess I don't pay attention to everything.
Well, they haven't mentioned it very much, so.
No, I think they only mentioned it in one episode that was about her and Loxana discussing completely different things.
Yeah.
And it just kind of came up, and they mentioned it offhand and then moved on.
I feel like I was just thinking, like, we haven't had like a Klingon episode in a while, but I can't imagine the Klingons would be like, we need Troy for her vibes. They don't. Although I feel like if any kind of group would probably benefit in having somebody with them who is empathic, who's an empath, this might be they might be it actually.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Just for the shits and giggles of it all. Oh, but I don't want the Klingons to kidnap. You know what? Fuck it. There's Gowron. Gowron did it.
Okay. Gowron kidnaps Troy. All right.
Yes, that's what I'm going with.
All right. Well, if you'd like to see if Dory's correct, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.